Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypno-coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today I want to talk about temptation. Now, those of us who were raised in the Christian spiritual tradition learn something called the Lord's Prayer, which is taken from the New Testament. It occurs in two places, Matthew chapter 6, verse 12 and following, and the Gospel of Luke chapter 2, verses 14 and following. I've always thought this prayer was somewhat ironic, because Jesus of Nazareth spoke it when he was asked to teach people how to pray. Now, at that time, the standard was to pray only using formal prayers which were written down and or memorized. Jesus basically said, don't do that, and instead demonstrated how to compose a simple, heartfelt prayer on the spot. The implication is that he wanted his followers to also pray that way, from the heart, spontaneously and simply. So, of course, the church completely ignores that, and everyone's taught to say the Lord's Prayer from memory, by rote, word for word, doing exactly what Jesus appears to have said not to do. Go figure. In any case, one line of the prayer is, "And lead us not into temptation." So what do we make of that? Well, to my mind, that request is really something of a cop-out. The gutsy prayer would be something along the lines of, "Give me the courage to resist the temptation to do something wrong when the opportunity to do wrong presents itself." That is, I know I'm going to be tempted to do bad or selfish things, therefore, may I have the strength to rise above that and not give in. Gutsy. Taking responsibility for my actions and for the consequences of my actions. But that is not what the Lord's Prayer says. The prayer isn't for the strength to resist temptations. The prayer is that the temptations not arise in the first place. And that's always sort of struck me as iffy. And lead me not into temptation. There is a moral victory in being presented with the opportunity to do something wrong and not giving into that. There isn't much of a moral victory in hoping that the opportunity to do something wrong never manifests. So I can be blame-free not by showing virtuous strength, but by simply not having the opportunity to do something wrong. It's a much weaker position. I mean, it's one thing for a person who has a problem with alcohol to stay a non-drinker by making a daily decision to abstain. That's strength. It's another entirely when a person who has a problem with alcohol stays free of the drug by living somewhere where alcohol isn't available from any source. Yes, both people are non-drinkers, but one has achieved a moral victory while the other simply stays out of trouble by following the path of least resistance. Now, the word temptation means the desire to do something wrong or unwise. We've all felt that from time to time, or at least I have, and because I know about me, I suspect about you. So how do we deal with this? Well, Oscar Wilde, the famous writer, is humorously quoted as having said that The only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. Well, actually, I guess that's true. If you're tempted to do something wrong and you do it, the temptation goes away because you have indulged yourself. If you don't give in, you will still feel the temptation and need to stay on your guard. Now, the opposite of temptation is self-control. That's when we know that we're attracted to something that might be pleasurable, if only in the short term, but we do not give in because we look beyond the momentary satisfaction we might achieve in favor of a larger view of ourselves. For example, it might be tempting to cheat at cards and have the fun of winning a hand. But we don't do that because we don't want to think of ourselves as a cheat, and we certainly don't want others to think of us that way. So we exert self-control and play the cards honestly in order to preserve our reputation and our long-term sense of self. Well, many years ago, and it stood me in good stead for my entire life, I formulated a rule for myself about how to maintain self-control in difficult situations. As far as I can remember, I formulated this rule about the time I was in junior high school, and I featured it in a number of sermons and talks. Basically, my idea is that when you are struggling with what you should do, being tempted perhaps to do something unwise, lose your tempers, say something mean, what have you. Instead of doing what might bring momentary pleasure, ask yourself how you will feel about this when you look back at it from about 2 years in the future. Now, ultimately, unless we have the misfortune of dementia, we take our memories with us into the future. We always can recall what we did or did not do. Every significant memory you have will be one of two things. Either it will be an asset because you will look back and be proud of what you did or did not do, or it will be a liability because you will look back and be ashamed of what you did or failed to do. Now, all of us mess up from time to time, and self-compassion and self-forgiveness are important things. But it's far better not to do things that you need to self-soothe or forgive yourself for in the first place. So whenever I am in a position of not being sure what I should do about some issue or event, I ask myself, how do I believe I'll feel about this about 2 years in the future? Will I be proud of what I decided to do, or will I be embarrassed? The result is that I may keep my mouth shut when I would really like to put someone down. I may take a deep breath and not express anger. I may forego something that might be fun in the moment, but I know I would regret in the long term. This simple rule has kept me out of a lot of trouble and enabled me to resist a lot of temptations. When you are not sure what to do what you will be proud of when you look back at the memory from the future. That will keep you from temptation and will help you achieve true moral victories in your life. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help me if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Stay well and stay safe.